Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying Model Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest action figure video podcast. So take off your pants, crack a beer, and let's talk toys. Let's talk a lot of toys. A heck of a lot of toys. Guys, about 6 months ago, I started my list, my countdown of my top 100 action figures in my collection. And you know what? I didn't quite get around to finishing that. I was doing it in parts and I was counting down from 100 to 0, I guess. And I got to close to the end. And then eventually life got in the way and things happened and events occurred. And I just didn't get round to finishing it. And I thought, you know what? That's okay. Sometimes you start stuff, you don't finish them. But some of you, that just wasn't good enough, was it? Some of you just couldn't stop hounding me. You couldn't stop harassing me at every turn, asking me when am I going to finish the list. And dang it, you finally caught me. It was my own fault. I'm not annoyed at you, just angry at myself because I shouldn't do live streams after a couple of glasses of rosé, but I did, and I finally said that I was going to finish this list before the end of the year. Yeah, it's December 31st now, and I thought to myself, well, come on. It's not going to be that many figures. I mean, what, did I get down to the last 10 or something? No, I've got 40. Got 40 figures to cover in one day. So let's do this. My final 40 figures. Now, bear in mind, I even made this harder for myself, because heaven forbid I ever make life easy. I just did a top 10 action figures of the year, so of course most of my figures should be those guys, but no, you've already seen me talk about those. I want to make this more interesting, so I'm trying to do my top 100 without including any of my top 10 of the year. Why do I do this to myself? You know what? That's a question for another time. Let's crack on. We got the top 40 figures. Let's do it. Coming in now, we have Cyrax from Storm Collectibles' Mortal Kombat line. My first Mortal Kombat figure, and instantly won me over to the brand. I was telling myself initially that I was only going to get Cyrax because I came in way too late to the party. Shao Khan already out, Goro already out. All the original ninjas, like gold dust, like unicorn poop. You can't find them anywhere. So I thought to myself, no, I'll just get Cyrax because I love the robot ninja design. Yeah, that was just so silly of me, really, wasn't it? Of course, this kickstarted my entire Mortal Kombat line obsession. At least I drew the line at getting the original ninjas. I was like, nope, I won't do it. That's a bridge too far. But everything else was fair game. And this dude was the reason. And honestly, I don't think a single figure has actually topped him. I love this guy so much. The main reason being because there's no organic component. It's all just armor. And that's what Storm can recreate so perfectly because there's no human face to copy. There's no uncanny valley. There's no flesh tones or anything. It's a perfect representation of what you see in the MK3 arcade machine. This is Cyrax. Perfectly realized. Every little nuance and detail is right there with his ridiculous kind of BMX biker type armor. I love how, even though Mortal Kombat was hugely popular and successful in the 90s, there were still elements that felt kind of cheap, but in a fun way. You could tell they went to a BMX store and were like, yeah, that'll pass for cyborg ninja armor. I love it because of that. Perfectly recreated here. So many accessories with this guy as well, with the hollow net to capture your opponents in and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely wonderful figure. Still my favorite one from the Mortal Kombat line. Mr. Hyde, one of the big bad Build-A-Figures from this year. I think that this wasn't one that I was expecting, like I wasn't hankering for a Mr. Hyde figure, but then they made him and I was like, oh wow, they really did a good job with this guy. This is the Mr. Hyde from the kind of Thunderbolts era of like the mid-2000s or sort of 2010s kind of era, where he's got the bowler hat and the sort of smart suit. He looks cool. I mean, he looks kind of terrifying. The eyes and the big teeth, like he looks like a threatening looking villain. I think a lot of people, myself included, might have preferred to have like a crazy, wild, big hair head sculpt to go on him as well, and very often he'll be depicted wearing like a sort of a shawl kind of thing. I don't know what you call it, but that's how I imagine Mr. Hyde in my mind. But still, they went for the more modern design, and I'll give them credit because they nailed it. He looks really, really great. So it also leaves the door open to get a more classic Hyde down the road. But in the meantime, this was definitely one of the best Build-A-Figures I think we had this year. Oh, NECA, I have such a love-hate relationship with some of their figures, but this guy the Alpha Predator, actually caters to all of NECA's best strengths and qualities, mainly creative ideas and sculpting. And oh my goodness, the sculpting on this guy is phenomenal. Yes, he's more expensive than your average figure, but you get your money's worth with him. They took the original Predator design and then they kind of retro-fitted what an old school, like, caveman type Predator would be. So creative, such wonderful ingenuity went into the ideas and the concept behind this figure. Absolutely adore what they've done. The beautiful but also kind of gross pearlescent sort of paint job on here just pops off the shelf so beautifully, and then is customed and augmented with the more kind of tribal caveman type armor here that's very dark brown next to that reflective kind of surface. The great gnarly grizzled looking predator face. So cool. I don't need a whole army of predators. I just need one to look badass, and this guy absolutely fits the bill. Again, throwing him in with my fantasy kind of collection of figures, yeah, this dude is an absolute favorite. You know, it's very rare that I will have a Marvel Legend displayed outside of my Marvel Legends collection, but Cosmic Ghost Rider is one of them. This guy fits so well with my general cosmic display. I've just got to have him there. And also, like, because my sort of collection, I'm looking up at it now, it skews a bit more sort of retro Marvel. He doesn't necessarily go with the rest of the display. So putting him in with the cosmic badasses, works perfectly. Because I ain't selling him. Because he's too cool. I mean, just look at this. It's just skulls and cosmic and flames, like all those great elements, those great tastes that taste great together. The fact that I love his sort of dome space helmet with the flaming skull inside, that's just so awesome, with the spiked shoulder pads, the very retro sci-fi rings around his wrists there, and then the Punisher logo with the Starfield behind it. Works so well. Absolutely love this guy. So bonkers. So ridiculously excessive. Someone just went, well, let's combine Deadpool and the Punisher and Ghost Rider into one character. And they did, but somehow it works. It works really well. So this guy, yeah, he might not be with the Legends, but he definitely has pride of place in his own separate cosmic display. Might be a surprise here now, because we're going DC Multiverse with Gorilla Grodd. I know, kind of a random choice, because what am I doing with... I don't even collect DC, I'm not into the comics, let alone a random villain that I don't even really know much about. But, and bear with me here, he's a giant gorilla in gold armor. Why wouldn't I want him in my collection? Especially because this was the year where I started to branch out from Marvel Legends and do like different lines and ideas and displays. And now I've kind of like cultivated a display collection, which is just like fantasy, medieval, kind of Mortal Kombat inspired type badasses. And that is where this guy fits in. Right next to the NECA movie turtles and Violator and the Tengu Warrior, all those kind of characters that you could fudge into a headcanon kind of mystical sort of sword and sorcery type collection. Yeah, 100%. This dude goes so well. And then you look at the details on the armor, so beautifully crafted and sculpted with the great shouting battle cry type face. Yeah, I might not know much about the character of Gorilla Grodd, but Giant Angry Monkey Man, yeah, he's one of my favorites. When does a re-release of a figure not bring down the value of the original one? I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I present for your consideration the original Hobgoblin, the still best version of the Hobgoblin. I've got to admit, I can be a bit of a swine sometimes. I'll be honest with you. We're sharing here. I will sometimes sell an action figure when I think that it's kind of peaked in value because there's going to be a new one coming out and maybe it won't be in such high demand. I was this close to selling this Hobgoblin because there were all the rumors that they're going to do a new Hobgoblin. And I was like, well, when they do a new one, surely he'll be better than the old one. He'll be an improvement. That's what you do. You improve over time. But I just had this little nagging doubt in my head going, yeah, but what if he's not? What if he sucks? What if they do a new Hobgoblin, but they strip away all the good elements, give him an ugly paint job, and then just put him out there for people? And then you're really disappointed that you sold the original one that was so much better. What if, Dave? What if? So I thought, okay, I'll stick with this guy. And boy, am I glad that I did. Because the animated Hobgoblin, yeah, he don't look good. Not in my eye. Sorry. I'm glad I kept this dude, especially with the fact that I threw on the old Toy Biz Hobgoblin glider, which is so cool, so awesome. The fact that like the one that he came with is kind of small and puny and like, not that great, whereas this thing, absolutely incredible. So pair them up together with the Dread Knight body with the scales that look so cool for his armor. Two different faces. So you've got this one and you've got the Demogoblin looking face as well, which now is beautifully surplus to requirements because we've got the awesome Demogoblin builder figure. But this guy still the most iconic version of Hobgoblin. Very glad that I didn't part with him, and yeah, he's staying in the collection now. A fun random pickup from London Comic Con. So good to have Comic Con back. And I got myself a Mojo from Mojoverse. That is his kind of voice, isn't it? I think so. Does he have like a Texas kind of drawl? I'm harkening back to the X-Men cartoon. I think that that's kind of how he sounds. He just sounds kind of crazy. And this figure is really, really crazy. One of the old Toy Biz ones, a rare Toy Biz one that still stacks up so well with modern Marvel Legends. Kind of like MODOK, and then they updated MODOK. Maybe we'll get an updated Mojo one day, but honestly, I ain't clamoring for it because this guy is fantastic. So much detail. This was where the Toy Biz figures could sometimes look a little bit like horrifying, which is awful when you're trying to capture the face of like a nice, pretty looking person. But when you're trying to get the face of a hideous alien, yeah, nailed it. Well done, Toy Biz. You mastered the art of the grotesque. This guy is grotesque, but so good. With the huge big arms and the disgusting distended belly like the dude from Blade. All the little spider legs, and he has the stands underneath. So he stands on the stands, but it looks like it's the spider legs. Very clever little circumventing of the mechanics there. The horrible mechanical scorpion tail with all the little cables and everything. They went so hard on this figure, and it shows. He's absolutely awesome. And I say, wow! Wow machine! Wow machine! Yow! That's what the headband does. It brings out the hair metal in you. And this guy is all about that because just look at him. Look at everything going on here. I was thinking about paring down my Avengers collection to just the absolutely essential ones. And War Machine, yeah, even though you might say he's like a B-list Avenger, I mean, just compared to like Cap and Iron Man and Thor, but look, you can't get this guy off your shelf. You're never gonna happen. Not when you've got this many accessories with the and the kind of effects. So many big things. He even has boot jets that I don't even display him with because even I might go like, you know what? That's a little too many effects because this is just perfect as is. I love this guy so much. He's so 90s. This is 90s War Machine, especially when you picture like the animated cartoon Iron Man style. That's absolutely banging right there. Throw him next to modular Iron Man, you got yourself a nice Iron Man display. An amazing gift from an amazing friend of the show. We have the Abomination. The huge, big doorstop that I've been wanting for the longest time. And the problem with getting hold of this guy is that if you don't find him in store, in person, you're going to have to spend more shipping the figure than what you actually spend on him. Because he doesn't retail for a huge amount of money. Because I think a lot of people, they like him, but they just don't have the room for him in their collection. And to be honest, I didn't have the room for him in my collection, but I made it because I want this dude on my shelf because he's so big. Finally, you put him next to like the 80th anniversary Hulk, and now you've got a real challenge for the Green Goliath. We've all been waiting for Hasbro to give us a 616 Abomination on the Gamerverse BAF. Maybe one day. But that doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. Whereas this guy is here right now, and he looks so big and terrifying, and actually way more articulation than I realized, because I thought he was more like the Juggernaut. And Juggernaut, like, you can only rotate the shoulders up and down, and there's no elbow movement. Here you got elbow movement as well, and the twist with the hands, and you can actually position him in way more interesting poses than I ever thought you would be able to. So this dude, Abomination, with the incredible paint job and the sculpt on the face, absolutely fantastic. Without a doubt, still my favorite version of Emil Blonsky. Brightening things up now, we go back to the Marvel Universe with Captain Carter, Peggy Carter from the What If wave. I really think I should have maybe put her in my top 25 because, first of all, she was a gift from a friend of the show, so that just instantly just makes my heart flutter a little bit. I'm like, yes, I kind of love you. But then, with everything that goes into this figure, such a well-made design. The Peggy Carter head sculpt, just look at that. It's so well put together. It's a wonderful, perfect mix of that animated style that also works in a 616 kind of version as well. You could totally just put her with your 616 collection and boom, she fits right in. The face just matches the comic book style perfectly. I enjoyed the What If show way more than I thought I would do. I thought it'd be a random, skip it, miss it, throw away kind of individual episode type of show. And then it all interweaves together and it's so well done. And Peggy Carter was undeniably the star of that series. And I'm so glad that they're extending her story as well. I want to see where the character goes. And I'm so happy that I've got the action figure to match up with her. Awesome. You want a figure that's going to absolutely dominate your shelf space? Yeah, Sauron from the X-Men line. This thing is, the only problem is he's so big. He takes up so much space with the gigantic wingspan and the tail that comes out the back. That's my only little gripe with the figure. If the tail could be bent or moved around, it would allow you so much more options for putting him in displays, but you need like this much space behind him in order for that tail to be accommodated. Sometimes I would actually display him without the tail. I would just pop it off and put it in the fodder box, then you can push him back against the wall. That way his wings will go up against the wall as well, and that fits quite nicely. That tail is a bit of a doozy, that one, but it doesn't detract from how great the figure actually is. The amount of artistic detail and paint and sculpt that went into that great reptilian body, I think they really, really nailed that. With the awesome face sculpt as well, the huge big beak and the glaring eyes, they did a really great job of just going a little bit above and beyond. You know, sometimes you'll see a Build-A-Figure and you're like, that's a little bit underwhelming for a Build-A-Figure. Not in this case. This time we got our crazy dinosaur man sculpted to perfection. Huge in scale, massive sized wings, and absolutely dominating any shelf he's on. Storm Collectibles have given us a couple of different Scorpions, but this one is my standout Scorpion to go for. Yes, would I love the Retro Ninja version? Yeah, I would do, but I ain't paying the price that one costs. But the San Diego Comic-Con one is arguably the superior figure as far as sculpting and articulation is concerned. So if you're actually going for one of the more sort of critical eye with how a figure is put together and how you compose it, then actually this one generally seems to be considered the superior version of Scorpion. And why the heck not? Because he's got the great chain here as opposed to like just the plastic sort of spear. You've got like many more posing options with this. It looks a lot more dynamic on the shelf. Then you've got the great MK2 style mask there as well, but more so you got the flame skull head as well. And just put a flaming skull on anything and it's going to look cool. So this dude with all the different posing accessories and options is what really sets him apart. Then you've got, like I said, the best of both worlds. You've got the quilted ninja costume here, but then with the more modern kind of boots and articulation, I think that works really, really well. Would I like to get the original? Yes, I would. Is this a good substitute in the meantime? Yeah, I'll absolutely take it. Because also it seems like they're going to be updating all of their ninjas, hopefully, with this design. We're getting Sub-Zero in this kind of costume. I'm really happy to get that. And also, I mean, I'm guessing maybe we'll get Reptile at some time as well. My only problem is that they are just about to release Reptile in his Mortal Kombat 3/4 sort of design. And honestly, I'm not a fan of that body sculpt because I think that top torso, it's very limited with its articulation. So that Reptile, I might just like hold off on him. I feel there's a bit of a Reptile dysfunction with that one. Whereas hopefully in a few years, we might get the San Diego Comic-Con version of Reptile. And since I love this body sculpt, I'm going to hold off for that one because this guy has kind of won me over. A figure that took a long time to win me over, but boy, he finally did, was the retro Peter Parker. Now, I was happy to have a regular civilian Peter Parker. That was cool, but I didn't like either head sculpt. I didn't like the weird scientist glasses look. That just looked odd where you couldn't see his eyes. It was an artistic decision, but I don't think it was a good artistic decision. Whereas this one, I wasn't sure about what I felt was a slightly dopey kind of look on his face with the Spider-Man mask. I didn't dig that. until I finally got him in this position. And I was like, oh wait, yes, if you have him like looking up like this, yeah, suddenly that works perfectly. That was just me being a dumbass trying to put him in poses that just didn't really fit that face. Once I realized like, oh no, this is the perfect look for him, there you go, nailed it. Now I love this guy. The only thing missing is some spider sense. That's what we needed, and hopefully, I just dropped the camera. Hopefully we'll get that at some point with a different figure, maybe a spider sense accessory we can clip on the top. A lot of modders and customizers make that and they look money. I've actually got one from, again, friend of the show, and that goes on my Professor X because it's a good like sort of psychic effect as well. But yeah, this dude next to Gwen Stacy, I have like Gwen Stacy in one arm and him looking up with his spider sense. Yeah, so effective. Brilliant retro style. Really love this now. Can I include customs on this list? Yes, of course I can. It's my list. Boom, Spider-Side. Oh, mignon. This was an incredible custom made by a very dear friend of mine, all the way over in the Czech Republic. You know how long he took to arrive in the post? 9 months. Yeah, he was made and finished within about a month. And then 9 months later, the postal service finally gets him over to me. That's why I love him so much, because he was the lost figure. This guy, we had both given up hope, myself and the customizer. We were like, nah, he's just, he must be lost somewhere. He was sent tracked postage, but it was just stuck on Czechoslovakian postal service. Like, that was just where it was. And we were like, well, I guess he's never coming back. But no, we got him randomly. I got home from work one day and I saw this package and I was like, I don't remember ordering anything. Ripped it open and it was Spider-Side, made with the Caliban Build-A-Figure buck, the Select Venom head, and a whole lot of talent, skill, love, and putty has made this incredible Clone Saga figure. I don't think we're ever gonna get an official Marvel Legends Spider-Side, and now I don't care because I've got the most perfect rendition of the character. You can see the joy on my face. Absolutely love this guy. Mcfarlane know how to mine their 90s nostalgia, and they do so by giving us a new Mandarin Spawn. Yes, Mandarin Spawn was one of the figures that I most regretted selling. I had a great, if I say so myself, Mcfarlane collection from the 90s. I had all the big heavy hitters. I had Cygor, I had the Crow, I had Mandarin Spawn, and then I sold them because that's what you do when you make bad decisions. But we got a new version for the modern era. Is he perfect? No, he's not perfect, but he carries the weight and the lineage of Mandarin Spawn, and that really kind of harkens me over to him. Now, just the detail on all of the armor here, really beautifully done, with the kind of ivory looking white here that really makes it look like a legitimate piece of ceremonial armor, but then he's got the cool kind of monstrous legs where it's like, oh no, this dude ain't human. But what I do kind of like lament a little bit is the black on the back does look kind of plasticky, which is a shame because the rest of the armor is really, really effective. But still, the fact that also this guy seems to be on clearance quite a lot. I was very tempted to get a second one because I have these guys as like Shao Khan's guardsmen, so to have two, one either side, like that would look really effective. The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I should buy another one. But in the meantime, this guy solo, really awesome. You want a bit of a random one? Thunderstrike. You've been Thunderstriked! Thunderstrike is not a particularly outstanding Marvel legend, but why do I love him so much? Because he screams, literally, 90s. This is so 90s Marvel. When the entire comic book industry were like, we need to refresh ourselves. We need to be hip, pow, wow, and now, which meant updating all of their characters with new extreme 90s versions. And of course, Thunderstrike was the new version of Thor. And he wasn't a bad character at all, but the fact that he is so perfectly captured in this Marvel legend, that's what I love. You gotta give the Legends team credit. They can reuse so much stuff and it still like works and fits perfectly in different figures. So we've had this jacket before, the basic body sculpt, but man, it's the head. They absolutely nailed the shouting, rah, Thunderstrike type look with the great mallet hammer as well, and just everything about him. The blues all pop and they shine really nicely. The big, huge, chunky boots. Are there ways to improve him? Yes, of course. You could have given him a regular head. I wouldn't have used it though. You could have put a little more paint on the boots to bring out different details and colors, maybe some lightning effects. You could have done more, but sometimes you don't need to. You get a pass in this one because of my nostalgia makes this figure such a favorite in my collection. Now, I have a video in the works that's actually going to be quite a big, interesting kind of piece, very different from what I normally do, all about Fortnite and how much I tried playing it and hated the experience with a passion that actually slightly haunts me to this day. But that doesn't take away the fact that I love Blobby Fish Guy. Can I remember his name? Honestly, no. I genuinely, top of my head, I can't tell you what his name is. I always think of him as like Glob Herman because that's what he looks like from X-Men. That's where I draw the comparison. But even though the name escapes me, what doesn't escape my shelf is this dude. He's staying on there. Why? Because he's so bizarre, so weird. And this is what made me want to try playing Fortnite, because I saw the figures and I was like, I don't like a lot of the super animated styles, but some of them work really well. Mainly this guy, because I was talking earlier about my mystical sword and sorcery fantasy type display. I also have the equivalent of that with my random space cosmic type characters. And this dude is a cosmic bounty hunter that just pops off the shelf amazingly. Doesn't matter what his headcanon is or the story. Like, I just saw him as like this little fish guy that had somehow had psychic control over water to put it all around him so that he can be like a crazy intergalactic bounty hunter. I don't know what the actual story of this glob dude is. It doesn't matter because he looks awesome on the shelf, and really, that's all that counts. A real surprise favorite of mine was Moon Knight. This was a figure that, like, I'm not a huge Moon Knight fan, but I saw that they were releasing it and I thought it does look kind of pretty. I like what they've done with it. He's a great street level character. Yeah, let's get him. And then I got him and I was instantly just in love with this figure. I thought he's so pretty. Sometimes it's the most basic designs that work so well. The fact that he's just a white costumed character and then you've got these little pearlescent kind of markings and the moon sickle on there and the wrist guards, a slightly different shimmering sheen kind of pearl sort of color scheme, works so beautifully. Then you throw in the different head sculpt with the black face mask, and then you've got the different sickles, the big moon sickle, the small little sickles that you can put into his knuckles. The only reason I don't display him like that is because I'm terrified of losing those. Long-time viewers of the channel will know what happened when I thought I lost one of them. Turned this damn place upside down trying to find it. The problem with those little sickles, you see, is they look a lot like nail clippings. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not some gross person. I put my nail clippings in the bin, but then also, you know, a few might fall through the cracks. And then when you're trying to find a little moonsicle and you're like, this is a needle in a haystack. But still, that took me to a dark place thinking of that. But I found it. Is the case. And when I did, I put it in the little baggie and put it in the fodder box, and I was like, you are not going anywhere, because heaven forbid I have an incomplete figure. Fortunately, this guy has got all of his accessories and I absolutely love him. Going back to the bizarre nightmare fuel that is Fortnite, we have Lynx. At least I remembered the character's name here. Again, I saw her and I thought, you know what? You will fit perfectly in my cosmic bounty hunters type display. And you know what? She does. And I do like the slight wackiness that's just not like universe game breaking, but just kind of quirky, i.e. her ridiculous little bear backpack. Because it's like, yeah, it doesn't really sort of like fit right when you're thinking about a badass bounty hunter in a reality kind of context, unless the bounty hunter is just slightly off her rocker. In which case, why the heck not? It's total anime sort of style and it looks so cool. We've got the little cattail on the back here, the cool cyber scythe and the little machine gun. But then really, it's the Lynx face sculpt. I really love that they've kind of managed to merge the cybernetic and the cat like in a perfect way that just makes it a really effective, futuristic, badass looking figure. Again, like with the rest of Fortnite, don't know anything about the backstory, don't know why she looks the way she does or why she's motivated to run around a map and kill people. Doesn't matter, because what she does do is look awesome on my shelf. One of the absolute Hasbro highlights from last year was the Rider's Punisher. Oh my goodness, so much work and effort went into this guy. They really went ham, and it shows with every little detail. First of all, the face sculpt, one of two face sculpts, is just this great weathered old man version of Punisher, but not like super old. Just a guy who has been around for a long time, killed a whole lot of people, and taken a whole lot of bumps and bruises along the way. I love the patches of the scars and the bandages and the plasters. So cool. But really, it's the extras. It's the sawn-off shotgun, the machete, the baseball bat, and the bike itself. I use the bike in my diorama backdrop all the time because it just looks really good. Could have maybe done with a bit more paint, but I'll allow it because the Punisher figure himself, so badass with the cool t-shirt design there and all the straps and the holsters for his weapons. And like I said, that grizzled, gnarly face, such a great figure. Oh, the taste of your lips are on my mind. You're Toxin, I'm slipping under. Little Britney Spears there for you with a slight rock twist to it. Toxin, a figure that I really wanted and never thought we would get made, because we had the original Toxin, which was just kind of a quick repaint, kind of alternate chase type figure. It didn't really tick the box of the monstrous Toxin that we really got in Agent Venom. And then finally Hasbro were like, hey, guess what? You're looking for this? I couldn't believe it. That was my, perfect thing. I was always saying, not that I was always saying, it wasn't like I was talking about it at dinner parties and boring people, but still, I was thinking, if they used the Monster Venom body to do a Toxin figure, oh, that would look so sick. And guess what they did? And guess what? Oh, it looks so sick. First of all, the gnarly head that has this walnut kind of sculpting on it that just looks ridged and ribbed and just really gross. And that's what I want for this figure. I want gross, and they did it with the big slobbering green tongue, the piercing little yellow eyes with the black all around them. They absolutely took my favorite source material for Toxin and just went, yeah, we're gonna do that. I love paint fading. It's such a simple kind of technique. I mean, I'm not a customizer or anything. I don't know about toy production, but I don't think it's difficult to do this effect, I assume. But it's so effective whenever they do. Then you've got this wonderful, black to red. Works so well. The only thing is that, of course, a bit more paint on these mouths would have really made the figure pop. And I'm always so tempted to add that paint, but I just never get round to it. Maybe one day. But in the meantime, this dude with his big radioactive special claws, so cool, so badass. I've been thinning down my collection, but this guy, nah pal, you're safe. Now I present to you my Tengu Warrior. Genuinely, I think my Ivanhoe's is a pretty decent impression. I kind of like that one. Always keep that one in the chamber just in case. Love this guy. Again, a random purchase. Wasn't planning on getting him, but I was at a Comic-Con and I saw him on the shelf and I was like, he does look really cool. Mainly the beautiful kind of oil slick type paintwork on the feathers that makes them shimmer and sheen and glisten and gleam under the light. That's such a nice touch. Then the face sculpt is just straight up from the movie, which I just love. They've captured it perfectly. Again, it's so great when you've got monsters and armor, because there's no human face to get an uncanny valley, weird looking sort of aesthetic. It's just a creature, and you can recreate those so beautifully. Hasbro absolutely nailed this guy with some nice accessories too, different length wing feathers, so you can kind of army build them and have them looking different. Got the Tengu egg as well, which is really cool. This guy was not planning to get him at all. Took a little while for him to win me over, but then now that I've really got him established in my kind of fantasy display, yeah, absolutely love this guy. You know, when you ask the people, you'll often get the right answer, and in this case, it was Silk. When they did the fan choice vote, it was either her or a white costume Elektra or the lady from Thor, Sif. That was it. There you go. We got there in the end. And I was so glad that we got Silk. We had the older version, but I wanted a nice new one because also I didn't have the older one. And the fact that they've swapped out the grey and gone for the brighter white, I think that's such a prettier look for the character. Much more of a popping kind of colour scheme that works so well. And also this figure carries the criteria of what I put for a perfect Marvel Legend. 2 heads, yes, done. Extra hands, done. Weapon type effect accessories, done as well. She's got the web spooting from the hand kind of thing. But also what I love with the unmasked face, she's got like the neckerchief around her neck you can put on there as well, so it all kind of matches and makes sense. This is one of those head sculpts where I really can't decide what one I prefer. I swap them out occasionally because I also love the ninja type look. She looks straight out of Mortal Kombat. Very, very cool. But on the whole, this is one of the rare modern Spider-Man characters that, even though I love just like the retro collection mainly, I love a more modern one too, because this is one of those ones who it's like, yeah, you're from the more modern era, but I love your design. So she's definitely staying safe in the collection. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to pare down my Spider-Man collection to retro and modern, have like 2 different displays. But then there's also 90s as well. Gotta love the 90s. This is already getting harder. It's amazing that I love a figure of a character that I kind of hate. That would be Motaro from the Storm Mortal Kombat line. Why do I hate the character? Because he cost me so much money in the arcades. One of the cheapest villains ever made. Oh my goodness. Just spamming the unblockable attacks at you just to drain all the money from your wallet. But you know what? When you finally beat him, oh, that's so satisfying. And then Shao Khan would pwn you. But hey, that's the name of the game. That's how we rolled in the 90s. It built us a little bit tougher back then. You know what I'm saying? No free continues over here. But this dude, captured in Storm Collectibles, wonderful Mortal Kombat style. Really, really awesome. I mean, come on. He's a giant centaur, cyborg, man-horse, minotaur type thing. Just so cool. Just a blender, a smorgasbord of awesome elements put in together. He even comes with a skeleton that I dropped when I was filming this, but a skeleton that he's ripped out of some dude's body. Doesn't get more extreme 90s Mortal Kombat than that. But yeah, different head sculpts as well. He's got power effects so he can like shoot a energy ball from his tail. There's a little stand to put it on. So many posing options with this dude. But really, it's just because he's big, bulky, badass and chunky. All the best elements of an action figure look so good on the shelf. Easily one of my absolute favorite figures of all time has to be Leonardo from the NECA 1990s movie Turtle range. What a fantastic sculpting and painting job that has just absolutely perfectly recreated the Jim Henson costume design. Still the best looking movie Turtles. You can stack these up next to those ugly CGI things, and this real, actual, physical, tangible costume that someone can wear and act alongside other actors with still blows anything else out of the water. And the fact that NECA just made it in perfect 1/12 size and scale is just incredible. Really, what really does it for me is the eyes. The eyes have it. They're just these incredible, sort of slightly glistened, soulful looking eyes in this expression. Obviously, I have the other 3 brothers as well, and they're brilliant, but still, it's Leonardo's design that just kind of perfectly captures everything that was so good about the Jim Henson costumes. I absolutely adore this figure, love this guy. Yeah, he will, even if I like had to sell like the entire collection minus, you know, like 4 or 5 figures, this dude would definitely be safe. Absolutely adore this. It's wonderful nostalgia from the movie and my childhood, but also just an incredible appreciation of a beautifully sculpted figure. An incredibly awesome super 90s character has to be the Demogoblin. What a fantastic Build-A-Figure this is. At first you might think, you know what, it's a bit of an average sized character for a Build-A-Figure. Don't we want something bigger and chunky? Often we do, but when the amount of work and style has gone into this one, totally worth it. It's the paint job. It's the paint job and the face sculpt that really do it, because I appreciate a lot of the body, it's reused from the Dread Knight with the arms and whatnot, but then all the extra stuff that's been done has been done so well. It is predominantly the face sculpt. They've captured that hideous, terrifying, demonic goblin look to, well, perfection. They've nailed it. And then you've got the beautiful flame glider going on there, and innovation from Hasbro. We like to see a decent stand for the glider as well, which then makes it kind of a shame when we got the retro Green Goblin without the glider stand. It's like, come on guys, you have the technology to do this. Don't go squimping out on us now. But still, this Demogoblin, absolutely perfect. A great addition to the 90s Spider-Man display. Really love him. A Mezco figure that I really wanted to put on my top 10 of the year, but I couldn't because he came out in 2020, or even earlier. I think it was 2020. But either way, I digress. Still, it's Mezco Cyclops. Absolutely adore this guy. Optic Blast! We've got so many different blast effects as well. This is the biggest, most impressive one. But we've got a smaller, kind of classic sort of optic blast. We've got the sort of smoke kind of coming from the visor. Look, so many different expressions. He's got a neutral face as well. But then really, it is the cloth goods that I love. The fact that he's got this kind of wetsuit kind of design. I actually like the fact, which is really surprising for me, I like the fact that it's not exactly like the comic. They've taken the essence of the comic and actually done their own version. And it's funny, like old Dave would have really hated that, but new Dave kind of digs that new artistic version of the character. Then we've got the big flight jacket on here as well, which is super cool. I love this version of Cyclops. I was torn between this and the Mafex version because they were similar prices and I wanted to zhuzh up my Sentinel display, so I wanted one of them. And every time I looked at the Mafex one, I thought, the proportions look a little bit odd. It just doesn't quite grab me. Whereas this guy, when I saw him on the shelf, I saw him in Forbidden Planet. They were displaying him outside of the box so you could really see what he looked like. I was like, yeah, definitely going to go for Mezco. I did, and I'm really happy about it.
You weak, pathetic fool. You will die.
Gotta love those voice samples from the arcade. That is my 90s childhood right there at the bowling alley playing Mortal Kombat 2. And this dude captures that Shao Khan to perfection. This was another one of those figures that really convinced me to go all in with the Storm Mortal Kombat line. So big, badass, domineering, chunky, with his throne as well. The fact you can pop off the helmet and you've got the cool face sculpt under there too. There's so much going on with this figure that I really, really dig. But ultimately, it's when you see him paired up with Goro and Motaro and very soon Kintaro as well. My display of bosses gonna look so awesome. But this guy with his different hands, he's got the fist, he's got the clutching, and of course he's got the pointing finger as well for his mocking. It's so, so cool with the great shoulder pads with the spikes and all the different armor. Absolutely adore Shao Khan. Did I pay through the nose for him? Yeah, I did. Someone in China got a good deal out of me, but it was worth it because now he just pops off the shelf. One of my absolute favorites. I love this guy. General Trag from the NECA Animated Turtles line. What a wonderfully realized figure. I love him and Granitor as well. The two of them in the 2-pack, they both look fantastic. I went for Trag because he just feels a little bit bulky, a little bit classic as well, because I remember him more from the animated show. And that's what NECA have absolutely perfected, is taking those animated characters and literally just making them 3D. It works so, so well. Trag looks awesome with his great rock soldier face and the big hulking kind of figure that really bizarrely stands up incredibly well considering he's so top heavy and he's got the small little feet. I never had a problem balancing General Trag. So having him either side with Granitor sort of flanking the big android Krang, they looked so great as a display. Really love that guy. You know I'm something of a customizer myself. Well, not really, but I can swap heads occasionally, and that's what I did with the Lex Luthor Justice League figure, or was it Batman vs Superman? Either way, it was a terrible movie, but it got us a prison body. Pop the old Cletus Cassidy head on there, you got yourself a Carnage. And then pair him up, of course, with the 90s version of Carnage with the big sickle scythe hand. That looks so cool. Again, straight out of Maximum Carnage. That is some Mark Bagley style artwork there that is just captured beautifully in action figure form. I see them and it takes me back. It takes me back to flicking through the back issue bins and trying to collect all the different Maximum Carnage parts and just gorgeousing over, that's not a verb, but still, gorgeousing over the Mark Bagley artwork that's been so wonderfully captured by Marvel Legends in these kind of two figures together. Absolutely adore those guys. Love them so much. Now I'm kind of lamenting selling them. But hey, needs must. I've got my absolute Carnage and he kind of fits that bill well enough. So those two guys paired up though, they still made an incredible looking set. Such an adorable little bugger of a figure is Baxter Stockman. I think that they just captured this cute little animated fly guy so well. It's funny that like the concept of the fly, is hideous. You think of like the Jeff Goldblum film and stuff, and that's clearly where the inspiration for this character came from. But then they did it in the animated show, and they made him so damn cute. I love how he's got like the little pug sort of face with the big eyes and the jowls. He just looks adorable. Throw in the extra accessories as well, like his little mutagen gun with the different animals on the dial that he can turn people into. I think they just did a great job with him. I've sold a lot of my NECA turtles, but I think I might keep the Splinter Baxter 2-pack because both of those are just such fun, cute, artistic, quaint little figures. Totally bonkers with his little bow tie and his jumper. I love what they did with him. I love how they captured him. And yeah, I really dig that figure.
You weak, pathetic fool. You will die.
Have I said that already? Yeah, I think I have. Doesn't matter, because we've got another Shao Khan, and he deserves to be represented as well. This is the Mcfarlane version of Shao Khan from the more modern Mortal Kombat movies. Movies? Video games. You know what I'm talking about. And this guy, again, goes great on my mystical fantasy kind of shelf. Because I don't collect the modern Mortal Kombat figures, so I don't really need this guy. But I couldn't get rid of him because his armor sculpting looks so cool. I love that they've gone for a more Chinese kind of medieval sort of look. That's not the technical time period. I don't think they call it medieval Chinese, but you know what I'm talking about. This kind of Mandarin Spawn type look is so wicked. I have him paired up with Mandarin Spawn, and they look great together, like a pair of guardsmen or something. They look so cool with the beautiful helmet sculpt going on here and his big badass battle hammer. This Shao Khan, he's not the classic Shao Khan, but he absolutely deserves a great place on the shelf. Just looking at this guy now, I'm like, yeah, he's just... I love doing these videos because it reminds me to look at figures that I normally sort of overlook and you forget about. Once they're on your shelf, you kind of stop acknowledging them. And then when you do, you're like, wow, I kind of forget how much of an awesome badass you are. Really love this guy. Now, as we all know, I'm something of a party dude, so why would I not love Michelangelo? I think of all the 4 animated turtles, you got the most bang for your buck with Michelangelo. With the extra, like, turtle communicator, he's got his grappling hook, and of course my favorite accessory is the spinning nunchaku thing. Yeah, that's the technical term for it. But I love that. I love that it's just a little disc with the spinning nunchaku. You put that on the end, and it looks really cool. It's so effective as a display piece. So Michelangelo with his bright, goofy, kind of animated looking face as well. I think that if I have to choose one turtle from that line, kind of like I chose Leonardo from the 1990s movie line as the standout figure, for the animated line, I think it's definitely Michelangelo. He is the standout Ninja Turtle from that line, in my opinion. I think he's probably the best one. Now, you know that I love 90s excess, and it doesn't get any more excessive than Onslaught, the ultimate 90s crossover of the Marvel Universe. Anyone who's anyone was involved in the Onslaught story in one way, shape, or form. And this dude, what a great concept for a villain. The worst of Magneto and the worst of Professor X, culminating in this psychic entity that just wants to obliterate everything. I love the story of Onslaught, and they captured the best version of his look in this figure, because there are different evolutions of Onslaught, which I really dig. I love that he sort of turned into this weird beetle looking creature, which was cool, and Toy Biz did an amazing version of that. But still, it's the more armored Magneto type looking figure that I'm actually a bigger fan of. I kind of wish that he was larger in stature. My dream project now is a HasLab Onslaught who would actually be sort of the size that he grows to, but also this is accurate as well because he is kind of a psychic entity. He doesn't necessarily have a fixed size, shape and proportion, so he has been depicted at this size, like just wandering around the halls of the X-Mansion chatting to Dark Beast and making evil schemes. So this is fine, but I'd like something more. But still, what we got here, with the little darker shading on some of his armor to just bring it out and make it pop a bit more, I think that's really, really effective. Plus, with the Magneto helmet with the little piercing eyes coming through there, yeah, I love Onslaught. Armored Batman from Mcfarlane DC. Once again, a figure line that I don't collect, but oh my goodness, I appreciate the artistry in the sculpt and what's going on there. They really took the Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman version and then just tweaked it just a little bit, made it a little bit more modern comic book kind of styling, and it works. I love how sort of dented and battle damaged the suit of armor looks. It looks like he's already been in the wars. Then with the great sculpting on the boots and the ridges on the feet, you can see those and you just think, man, That must have really hurt when he kicked Superman in the chin with those. It's just a big, hulking, chunky Batman battle armor. And again, Batman, you don't need me to tell you, he's like Deadpool or Wolverine. You get 10,000 bajillion versions of him. But this one does stand out as one that is particularly worth having. I mean, Mcfarlane, Batman is their bread and butter, and they know how to milk that cow, but they do a great job. Every time they do a Batman, they make him look wicked, and this is one that they've really pushed the boat out with, giving us that awesome, iconic Frank Miller design with a little bit of a modern Mcfarlane kind of twist to it. Really nailed that look. Lady Deathstrike and her Reavers behind me as well. As a team, they look really, really cool, and we're about to get Bonebreaker as well. So Hasbro are going hard on this line, and God bless them, because they look very, very cool on the shelves. I don't know if I'm going to get Bonebreaker. I'm of two minds, but he looks like a really fun, interesting figure. Being led by Lady Deathstrike here, what a great team that is. They did a really good job of capturing the classic look of Deathstrike here with the little cybernetic pieces on the chest and the great, great clawed hands. They look really awesome. I would have maybe liked a bit more of a wash, a bit more paint detail on the legs, but I'll allow it, because what they've actually captured here is still perfectly representative of the comic book style. I would have also liked a more dynamic looking face sculpt, but again, what we have is a decent looking female face. She doesn't have the dead eyes, she doesn't have the mannequin sort of expression, so that alone is good enough for me, because we've had some hard to look at female faces recently. So this one, the fact that she actually got a great determined, kind of just a badass kind of scowl on her face, that works perfectly for me. Paired up with the rest of the Reavers, she's absolutely awesome. Bit of a random one is King Shazam. This was a figure that I got from Strange World Collectibles. We had a nice little deal going there, bit of sponsorship. Boy, this channel's come along leaps and bounds. And one of the things I got from them to review was King Shazam. And even though, like, I'm not a DC guy, I appreciate a nice figure when I see it. And that's something I've always got to give credit to Mcfarlane for. I might not be a fan of the product line, but the amount of work, effort, paint, sculpt, and artistry that goes into those figures is really fantastic. And King Shazam looked so good with all the robes that he has over him and all the little nuances and the tears and the rips that just make it look so dramatic and effective. Then with his armor, the belts and buckles that just went into making this figure look so badass on the shelf. I'm not a big fan of like Jokerized characters, because I feel that's kind of like DC's version of Marvel making everyone Venomized, because it's like, oh, it's a new version we can do. Just slap a Joker face on them and there you go. And it's like, nah, I don't really like that aesthetic. I'd rather the character stands out in their own right. And this guy though, even though he has that look, he has so much going on with him that it just makes him a really badass looking character. Living Laser. Sometimes I'll like a figure just because it's kind of unusual. This is very unusual. First of all, bright translucent pink plastic. Yeah, that pops off the shelf. And also his ridiculous head sculpt kind of armor thing here. It's a problem in that it limits articulation totally. I mean, you're not going to be able to do anything really with this head. You can't tilt it up, back and forth, doesn't really turn. But I don't mind, because this is how he looks in the comics. If they tried to do more articulation, more kind of engineering to make the head move around, it wouldn't look the way he's supposed to look. So I'm absolutely fine with that. I also love the beautiful kind of fading they've done with the white on the chest going out to the pink around him. Kind of like I was talking about the fading on Toxin as well. It's a simple technique, but I think it's so effective. Then you've got the nice designs on the shoulders that break up the pink a little bit, the veins, like the electricity veins on the arms, that's really cool. And then you've got the sort of crackling effects here as well. There's a lot going on with what's actually kind of a basic figure, but kind of not a basic figure. I love that contradiction, and just the fact that he almost glows when you look at him. Yeah, Living Laser, he's a little bit of a sleeper hit. It's so funny that one of the most maligned figures of this year has been the Retro Sue Storm, yet we also have the Hasbro Pulse version, which is so good. It's amazing. When you take away that horrible paint on the face, you actually get a great looking classic invisible Retro Sue Storm. I still don't have my Fantastic Four Retro collection yet. They still haven't arrived, but when they do arrive, this is definitely going to be the Sue Storm we go for. This one paired up with the flamed on Johnny Storm and then Reed and Ben. it's just going to be an amazing Fantastic Four display. I'm really excited to have that. But yeah, I mean, look, she's translucent, so you got to love the translucency. But also, she's made of a solid, decent plastic. Again, nothing gummy. They've really moved away from that, which is so good. So she has all the quality of a regular figure, but with this beautiful translucent look that hides any sins the face sculpt might have. But honestly, looking at the face without any paint on it, it looks absolutely fine. This is a good looking face sculpt. So having her here complementing the rest of the Fantastic Four, I can't wait to see how that looks. But honestly, I know it's gonna look great.
I'm gonna try doing this next review in the same voice as the guy who does the voice for Spawn. I forget his name, which is really annoying because he's a very talented voice actor. Also does Goliath, I think. This guy is an incredible, big action figure piece. One that I wouldn't normally collect because, as you all know, it's 1/12 that has my heart. But then again, when you get a present like this from your brother-in-law, you damn sure appreciate it. And that's what this guy is. Appreciated on my shelf with my random action figure selection. Not necessarily one who will fit with any particular line, but one who just stands alone as Spawn, the demon from hell.
I'm not doing this anymore. Someone who was conspicuous by his absence in my top 25 legends list was Ultron. This guy deserved better. I'll tell you right now, I'll hold my hands up. I'll throw my hands in the air and wave them like I just don't care, because this guy should have been in my list, and I regret not putting him on there, because just look at him. He's so basic but beautiful. It's perfect because it's perfect in its simplicity. Kind of like me. Because it doesn't need a whole bunch of like crazy accoutrements to make him really pop off the shelf. The Kirby Crackle does it. It's amazing. This would be such an average figure if it wasn't for this little bit of color that just makes everything just resonate around him. So good. Plus, this is very all sort of unique body sculpting just to Ultron. He's got a selection of hands as well, so you can play about with how you want to display him. Would I like him to be just a squeak bigger? Yes, of course I would, but that won't actually disappoint or take away from the fact that this is an excellent figure. Such a great wave. Was the Bring on the Bad Guys wave the best of the year? Arguably so. If only they had had a more iconic character as a builder figure, that would have really pushed it over the edge. But still, in the meantime, Ultron, yeah, absolutely fantastic. And finally, a wonderful action figure to round things off with is, of course, me. Ding! This is a head sculpt that I got from a very dear friend of the show who I am so grateful for. That was one of my highlights, one of my absolute highlights of the year. I've always wanted a custom Dave head sculpt, and even though I've shaved the beard, which kind of, it dates this, but I'm growing it back, so I will be up to date again. I love so much what's been done here. You got the baseball cap, and yeah, you're actually very kind with the beard. You made it connect, which it doesn't normally do because my facial hair just sucks. But still, I'm so grateful for this. It looks so awesome. On the Stan Lee body, now I need to customize a model behavior t-shirt as well, which are available at teespring.com. Check the link in the description below. But yeah, the fact that I could get the little Ant-Man figure as well from the Retro Wasp, that was great. And then I got the money from, again, another friend of the show. I'm so lucky to have people help me out with figures and displays. It absolutely means the world. And then I get to display them like this. So clearly, don't get me wrong, this is not me flashing the money that I make from my wonderful business ventures. No. This is me handing over what money I have to pay for my action figure addiction. We all know how that feels. But at least you can see from the face sculpt that I'm very happy to be doing it. And guys, that does it! Oh, finally. Whew, that was exhausting. The top 100 action figures in my collection. Is it kind of out of date now? Arguably yes, but did I have a good time going through these last 40 figures? Yeah, you better believe that was an absolute blast. Now I gotta edit this video and get it out in time for New Year's, but I'm gonna do it because sometimes I agree to do silly things and then I gotta follow through. But that's half the fun of doing this channel and the interaction and communication that I have with you guys. I love the fact that I get to actually build this channel around the feedback and the community that we've built. That's so awesome. So guys, this is possibly the last video of the year. I'm not sure when I'll get this finished. If I get it finished in time, then I'll actually maybe do another one with the year-end awards. If not though, those awards are going to come out in January. But also, if you catch this in time, I will be doing a New Year's Eve live stream as well. But I don't want to talk about too many of these things because now this is dating this video. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, then join the 6-1 Clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. If you want to go one step beyond in supporting the show, you can do by going over to teespring.com and picking up a Displaying Model Behavior t-shirt. The link is in the description below, or you can go over to patreon.com/displaying model behavior. Throw a few shekels my way. It helps keep me in action figures, which is very much appreciated. And also it means that I can have more time to stay at home and make these videos. So everyone's a winner. So guys, thank you so much for all your support today, here, now, in the future, and all throughout 2021. Doing this channel has been an absolute joy for me, and I ain't slowing down. So thank you so much for your support. Enjoy New Year's Eve, and until next time, keep displaying model behavior. Armored Batman. Yes, again from Mcfarlane DC. This guy, just again. I'm going to start that again. I don't like saying again so much. I present to you my Tengu Warrior. I still think that my Ivanhoe's is pretty decent. And this guy is... Come on. It's really difficult to do this with a cough. Oh, the taste of your lips are on my mind. Damn it. It's too many things to catch.
Cup of coffee. Big time coffee.